Have you ever been in a crowd and felt all alone? Have you ever been together with a group of friends but still felt alone? Have you ever felt alone inside the four walls of your home? Hi, I'm Sherri Kreps, your spiritual fitness coach. With so many social media platforms and the ability to text and email, we are more connected to one another than ever before in my lifetime. Yet, the more I talk with people, the more I hear a common theme that many people are feeling extremely lonely. What causes loneliness? I believe isolation is something that many people are struggling with. Isolation prevents us from having contact with others, which keeps us from maintaining or building relationships. We often feel like we have no support or are forgotten. I'd like us to consider 3 ways we may experience isolation. First, sometimes we are isolated through no fault of our own. I think we can all agree that we experienced feelings of isolation during the COVID-19 pandemic. We were told to stay home, and even when we were able to be with others, we were told to maintain our distance. There were significant family events and holiday gatherings that were missed. Many of our social circles were suddenly eliminated from our lives, and that lasted a long time. Maybe a health issue or a physical condition has limited your ability to get out like you once did. Maybe you're homebound. This isolation can lead to feelings of loneliness. Secondly, sometimes God allows us to be isolated for a reason or season, for time to ponder and rely on Him. I experienced a season in my life not all that long ago where I was going through several hard things, one right after the other. Loss of a parent, conflict, grief, serious health issues of family members, and a changing role from what I had been devoted to for many years. I kept looking for people to help me bear the burden of all that I was feeling. The more I looked, the less people I found. I realized that while so much was happening, little by little, the relationships that I had known and relied so heavily on were no longer there. Some friends moved away and others had moved on. I was feeling very isolated and very lonely. But I learned in that period that God was calling me to Him, to depend on Him. When I was surrounded by lots of people, it was easy to rely on them. When no one was around, I leaned into God and His provision for all that He knew I needed. Third, sometimes we isolate ourselves. While all isolation can lead to loneliness, I believe isolating ourselves may be the most dangerous. Sometimes we do this because there are things in our lives that we are trying to hide. Sometimes we do this because we feel so discouraged that we just don't have it in us to interact with others. Sometimes we just feel wounded from a broken relationship and we don't want to risk that again, so we isolate ourselves to protect our hearts. When we choose to isolate ourselves, it's easier for us to believe the lies that the enemy wants us to believe instead of God's truths about us. We may tell ourselves that no one cares about us and that we don't matter. This thinking makes us question our worth and may lead to anxiety or depression. What does God say about isolation and loneliness? Does He care? Well, from the very beginning, God knew that those He created in His image needed to be with people. He said all the way back in Genesis, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make a helper fit for him." Also, the Bible is full of one another verses which imply that we are to be relationship-oriented people. Some examples are love one another, serve one another, encourage one another, build one another up, honor one another, teach one another. These are just a few. The Creator knows us best and what is best for us. We all need people in our lives. When we don't have that, we often experience sadness and loneliness. You may be wondering how you can have people in your life if you are isolated through no fault of your own or due to the season you find yourself in. Whether you are hurting from isolation or loneliness from your circumstance, season, or even by choice, know this: God sees you, God hears you, God loves you. How do I know? Well, the words of Psalm 139 are a reminder to all of us that God knows us intimately and there is no place we can go to escape His presence. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem me in behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to the heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. Do you want to win over loneliness? Let me challenge you with the following. First, read Psalm 139 and be assured that even if you feel alone, forgotten, or unvalued, and are lacking people in your life, that God has not abandoned you and that you are not alone. He is so close that His right hand can hold yours. Secondly, reach out to someone. Make a phone call. Invite someone over for a visit. Meet for coffee or go for a walk. The goal is building connection and relationships with others. While you may be initiating connection for your own feelings of loneliness, it may be that you calling and checking on someone else or offering an encouraging word is just what that other person needs as well. Lastly, if you are isolating yourself because you are hiding something in your life, get honest with God about that. He already knows. Find a trusted friend or mentor to share that with, so that you can be free of guilt and shame and live confidently in relationship with others. Now, go win today.